Hey, what is going on guys, RvzStealth here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at how pros are playing Aphelios after his release. So we'll be taking a look at the best builds, the best rune setups, matchups, synergies, taking a look at some tips and tricks for him throughout the game. So with that being said, let's get started. Just before we get started guys, I do want to announce that I am going to be giving away 20 KDA Akali skins as well as 20 Nightbringer Vladimir skins on various social media. So I'll be giving away some on Twitter, on Discord, over on my stream on Twitch as well. As this video goes up, I'll be live on Twitch giving away some codes. So there's going to be links down in the description below if you guys are interested in winning some skins. So if we jump right into it now, let's take a look at the different builds going around on Aphelios. So there's two main builds at the moment. It's the standard Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge and then Hurricane. There's also a Korean build going around right now, which is Stormrazor into Infinity Edge and then the Hurricane. And with that build, as you can see there, you're completely ignoring going for that Essence Reaver. So for whether or not you go Essence Reaver or Stormrazor, it kind of does come down to personal preference. You're going to be able to spam out your abilities more by going for Essence Reaver. You're going to be able to, I guess, a little bit more carelessly spam out your abilities because you are going to be getting the mana back there. With the Stormrazor setup though, the slow you get from it is really nice for Aphelios because he isn't a mobile AD carry. It helps him find picks. It helps him peel for himself a little bit better. So that's a really good pro to that item on him. It also gives him a bit more attack speed there. So a lot of players, a lot of Koreans, if they're going for this Stormrazor setup, they are going for the Conquer as their keystone rune because they are going to be able to stack that up a lot quicker from the attack speed there from the Stormrazor and the Hurricane. For Hurricane and Infinity Edge, you really don't want to be passing up on those two items. They're going to be very core on the champion. Hurricane especially just synergizes way too well with Aphelios' weapon. So overall, I would like to try out both builds on the champion. You've probably already tried out the first build there if you've already played Aphelios because it is the most standard one on him in this patch. But if you haven't tried out the second setup, it is the one that a lot of Korean pros are running right now. And it actually is performing better overall in this patch than the Essence Reaver setup. Now for runes on the champion, two different pages going around at the moment. It's either going to be press the attack as your keystone or it's going to be the Conquer. So the Conquer one there, that is the one you're going to see most often if you do see the Stormrazor setup. So going for Stormrazor, going for Runins and Infinity Edge, you are going to be getting more attack speed there from the Stormrazor than you would by going like Essence Reaver. So it allows you to stack up the Conquer a little bit faster, gives you a much better mid to late game as well there with your ability to just get max stacks of Conquer late game and have a bunch of extra AD. Even though the healing for ranged champions did get nerfed on Conquer for this patch, on any immobile AD carry, if you could just have that extra healing coming out of the Conquer and the Bloodline in mid to late game fights, then that extra sustain for yourself to help kite away from champions diving on you can be really nice. For press the attack, gonna be a more lane dominant setup there. So if you are playing with an aggro support, if you're confident in your ability to play aggressive in the laning phase, get some early kills, then I would be running the press the attack. You're gonna see this rune paired up most often with the build setup of Essence Reaver, Infinity Edge, and Hurricane, and you're gonna see Conquer more so paired up with that Stormrazor setup. So here's just a couple of different pro players examples of the runes and builds that they're running in this patch. So as you can see there, Kramer, Korean AD carry, or is he Chinese? I'm not too sure. He's either Chinese or Korean, but he is going for that Conquer there, going for the Stormrazor. Now he does like to go for Essence Reaver instead of Infinity Edge, and you can do that. Like you can go for Stormrazor into Essence Reaver and Runins as well. That is an option for you, but a lot of other Korean AD carries, they do prefer just skipping the Essence Reaver there, going Stormrazor, Infinity Edge, and then Hurricane. And then as you can see there, a lot of other AD carries just going for the press the attack. You got Sneaky, Apollo, Viper running press the attack and running the Essence Reaver into Infinity Edge setup. Apollo there is running Fire Cannon in his setup for that game, but I just think Hurricane is too good to pass up on. Most other AD carries right now are going Hurricane as their third item. And then I guess I didn't really touch on starting items or boots for the champion, but Berserker Greaves pretty much every single game, unless the enemy team does have a ton of like lockdown CC or they have a ton of AP, then you can go Merc Treads in that situation, but Berserker Greaves are going to be pretty standard for most games. Then starting item in this patch, pretty much for every AD carry, you do just want to be going for the Doran's Blade. Now for your stat maxing on Aphelios, it's going to be attack damage first pretty much every single game. That is the one that most pros are going, and it does have the best win percent for this patch, so I wouldn't really be looking to go anything else than your attack damage first. Second though, it can depend on the situation, so attack speed I would be looking to go in most games, but if the enemy team comp is really tanky, if they're stacking a lot of armor, then you can look to go for the armor penetration second instead of the attack speed. So matchups for Aphelios in this patch right now, he does tend to do a lot worse against champions who either have a lot of CC or who do outrange him in the laning phase or who can match his range. So champions like Caitlyn, Jhin, Ashe, and Senna are doing very well against him in this patch. Support champions that do have hard engage like Leona, Nautilus, if you are playing Aphelios, I'd probably be looking to ban one of those out because he is an immobile AD carry. If you get caught out by one of those champions in the laning phase, then it's going to be very difficult for you to escape and you're gonna get bursted out a lot of the time. And the matchups he does well into, he tends to just do better into lower range AD carries or AD carries and supports that don't have as much crowd control. So Lucian, Kai'Sa, Ezreal, Vayne, pretty good matchups for him in this patch. And then support champions, more so enchanters like the Soraka, the Janna, the Lulu, less hard engaged supports he is performing better against in 9.24. Synergies for the champion right now, who he is best paired up with, are more so champions who are a bit more supportive, who do have the ability to peel for him better in mid to late game fights. So champions like Janna, Soraka, Lulu, Braum. That's not to say he can't do well with more aggressive supports. I think if you can play a duo lane, pair him up with something like a Nautilus or a Leona, you do have a lot of kill pressure in the laning phase. But once you do reach the mid to late game, if your support playing that Leona or that Nautilus is not peeling for you in fights, if they're more so looking to dive the backline, it does leave you very vulnerable because you don't have any escapes and you don't have a gap closer in your kit. If you can pair him up with a support who's got a little bit of both, so good peeling power, but also does have the ability to play aggressive, somebody like a Braum there I think is one of his best synergies. Also Rakan, you can pair him up with him, has the ability to engage really well, but can also peel pretty nicely for him in fights. So if we move on to some tips and tricks now, first off, for early on in the laning phase, you should be looking to swap between your Calibrum and your Severum depending on the situation. So Calibrum is going to give you a very strong laning tool there. It's going to give you that extra range, so you can be looking to use this to harass the enemy in the laning phase, look to use it to poke the opponent out. We're going to see a really good example of this in the background gameplay. Sneaky playing the Aphelios there, and he's almost always using the Calibrum when he's looking to play more aggressive, when he's looking to poke, but when he's just looking to farm, he's always swapping to the Severum there. If you're not pressured at all in the laning phase, if you don't need that extra range to CS, then you should be using the Severum because it's going to preserve your Calibrum a little bit longer for you, and it's also going to give you that extra lifesteal, which you can use to heal up from a trade. So overall, just look to be swapping between these two early on in the laning phase, especially when you're CSing. If you're not pressured at all, look to use the Severum. You want to be saving your Calibrum ammo there to look to pressure the opponent when you have the opportunity to in the laning phase, and you don't just want to be using your Calibrum for the whole time early on in lane because then you're just going to run out of ammo and you're going to lose a lot of your lane pressure. Once you run out of ammo on your Calibrum and your Severum, you are going to be getting the Infernum and Gravitum, and this is one of the strongest combos or strongest weapon combos in the game for Aphelios. It just allows him to very easily look to set up ganks in the early game. It allows him to play more aggressive, look for him to set up a play for his support to engage on. So what you can do is you can have your Infernum there as your on hand, cue the opponent with it, swap to your Gravitum, you can get the root off, the AoE root, or not the AoE, but the multi-man root off there, and you can allow your support like a Rakan. We should see in the background gameplay here, he just does a really good job at getting a multi-man root off. Rakan follows up, and you can just find yourself chain CCing and getting some very early easy kills with this combination. Now, Q flash tricks for Aphelios, he only really has one, and that is with his Calibrum Q flash combo, so you can look to use that if you are looking to just get a Q off on the opponent when they are trying to escape you or something and you need to get that off as soon as possible. Q flash does work with the Calibrum. It does not work with the Infernum though. In the background gameplay there, you guys should see me trying this out in practice tool. You cannot Q flash with Infernum. It'll end up like coming out behind you, so if you are chasing down an opponent and you're trying to get a Q off of them and you have Infernum, you do want to make sure you're flashing first and then using your Q after. Now for most scenarios, you should be looking to use your Calibrum and your Infernum as your main hand weapons. In certain situations where the enemy gets right on top of you and you're like melee against them, you can look to use your Severum and your Crescendum as your main hand weapons, but for most team fights, like how you want to start them off is ideally you want to be using either your Calibrum there or your Infernum. Having Gravitum as your offhand in mid to late game fights is going to be extremely strong for you to just allow you to kite, allow you to find picks really nicely, so you should be looking to preserve your ammo for this weapon later on in the game, so you don't just want to be wasting that there. The CC that it does provide is very vital for Aphelios. Now once you do reach mid to late game, the Infernum and Gravitum combo is going to be the one that performs best for you most of the time in team fights. It just allows you to deal a ton of damage, a ton of AoE damage, and it also allows you to just get a ton of AoE crowd control off as well. So if possible, you should be looking to get these weapons when you think a team fight is going to start. This is where the Essence Reaver build does come in pretty nicely, because you can look to just spam out your abilities on a different weapon, waste the ammo on that so that you can get your Infernum and Gravitum before a team fight does start. Now, if you got your Crescendum and Gravitum as your weapons there, then you can be looking to use this combo to kite out really well in certain situations. So when you're trying to kite out an opponent, you drop down your Crescendum turret there, and then you can follow up with a very easy route from your Gravitum, and it can just do a really good job at allowing you to kite out champions that are trying to dive on top of you. Now the Crescendum and Severum combo is going to be your best just dueling combo for most scenarios. It allows you to deal a lot of DPS very quickly, and it also allows you to take Baron and Dragon very fast. So if you are pretty far ahead in the mid game there and you do have a tank on your team, if you have this combination, then you can look to very easily set up an early Baron there, look to take that, surprise the opponents, and continue to snowball even harder. And then once you do reach those late game fights, it's super vital for Aphelios to just be playing around enemies' high value cooldowns. So if they have a hard engage ability on their team that they haven't used yet in a fight, and they can look to use that to pick you off, you gotta respect that, because if you end up playing too far forward, you get engaged on, get hit by something like a Leona ultimate, you don't have a gap closer, if your flash is not up, you're going to die immediately. So even though this AD carry can put out a ton of DPS in mid to late game fights, he's super vulnerable, so you do have to make sure you are positioning well and respecting the enemy's CC abilities. So that is going to round out the video, guys. Hopefully you did find this helpful, and hopefully it now allows you to take a lot of these things into your next rank games with Aphelios and start performing a lot better. With that being said though, guys, if you did enjoy the video, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have yet to already. So thanks for watching, have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.